What happens when one of Hollywood's most respected legends sits down for what should have been a friendly interview, only to realize the host across from him has other plans? It started as laughter, applause, and smiles. But within minutes, that laughter died, replaced by stunned silence and disbelief. Because Jennifer Hudson, the Grammy-winning star-turned-talk show host, asked a question so out of line that it stopped the show cold. In Samuel L. Jackson, a man known for his poise, wit, and zero tolerance for disrespect, made a decision that no one saw coming. The studio lights shimmered across the glossy black stage floor of the Jennifer Hudson show. The audience was buzzing, waiting for the moment Jennifer would welcome her next guest, one of the greatest actors alive, Samuel L. Jackson. Jennifer stepped out with her signature smile, radiating confidence and charm. The crowd cheered wildly as she greeted them. "We have a living legend in the building today." Her tone was warm, but there was a subtle edge to her grin, something sharper hiding beneath the gloss of showmanship. Samuel walked out to a thunderous applause, his energy calm but commanding. He waved politely, gave Jennifer a respectful nod, and sat down opposite her on the soft cream-colored couch. He was dressed in a dark blazer, open-collared shirt, and that unmistakable presence. A man who'd seen everything Hollywood had to offer and survived it all with class. For the first 10 minutes, the atmosphere was light. Jennifer complimented his filmography, asked about his early years, even joked about his iconic roles. Samuel responded with his signature humor. That slow, deliberate voice, a raised eyebrow, and a knowing smirk that always got the audience laughing. It was going perfectly, until it wasn't. Jennifer leaned in, crossing one leg over the other, and her smile shifted, tighter, almost rehearsed. "So, Samuel," she began, her tone suddenly playful but laced with something else. "You've done so many movies, so many roles. Do you ever get tired of playing the same kind of tough guy?" Samuel chuckled softly. "I don't think I've ever played the same guy twice, Jennifer," he said. "They might be tough, but they're all different people." The audience laughed politely, but Jennifer didn't. She tilted her head, still smiling, but now it looked forced. "Sure, but don't you ever wonder if maybe it's time to pass the torch?" The room went quiet. It wasn't a joke anymore. Samuel's face didn't change, but his eyes did. The warmth cooled slightly, replaced by a flicker of disbelief. "Pass the torch?" he repeated, slowly. "I didn't know the fire was out." That got a small laugh from the audience, but Jennifer wasn't backing off. She said, "you've been in this industry for decades. Do you ever think about stepping back, letting the younger generation have their moment?" Samuel smiled, but it was the kind of smile that hides irritation. "Jennifer," he said calmly, "the younger generation's doing fine. They don't need me to leave for them to shine." Jennifer nodded, pretending to agree. But then she did something unexpected. She pulled out a cue card, glanced at it, and said with mock innocence, "Some people online say your recent movies haven't been up to your usual standard. What do you think about that?" The audience shifted uncomfortably. Samuel looked at her, long and slow, then said, "People online say a lot of things. Doesn't make them true." Jennifer leaned back, crossing her arms. "So you don't care what critics think anymore?" "I care about good work," Samuel said, "not gossip." There was something electric in the air now, a tension that neither of them could hide. Jennifer smiled again, but this time it didn't reach her eyes. "Well," she said, "some might say your best work's behind you." That must be hard to hear, right? Samuel looked at her for a long moment, then he smiled, a slow, knowing, dangerous smile. "Hard," he said. "No, Jennifer. What's hard is sitting here and realizing that respect doesn't mean what it used to." The crowd gasped softly. Jennifer blinked, clearly not expecting that. And that's when something shifted. For the first time in his long career, Samuel L. Jackson, the man who'd been through it all, wasn't smiling for the cameras. A stagehand slid a mug of tea onto Jennifer's side table. Cameras floated in a half circle, red tally lights blinking like watchful eyes. The control room whispered in headsets, "Stay on 2, ready 3, hold the wide." The audience leaned forward as if one organism, sensing the air change, but not yet sure why. Jennifer smoothed the cue card with her thumb. You talk about respect, she said, voice sweet as frosting. But respect is earned every day, isn't it? Not just with reputation, with relevance. The word hung there, sticky. Samuel didn't flinch. Relevance, he repeated, as if turning a coin in his hand. I get up, I make something honest, I tell the truth through a character. If that truth lands with a 19-year-old in Detroit or a 60-year-old in Dublin, that's relevance. It isn't a hashtag. A few people clapped. Jennifer pressed on. But do you check the numbers? The box office, the streams? Because some would say the last couple didn't exactly pay your rent, he said lightly, saving her from the sentence she'd regret. The audience laughed with relief. I checked the call sheet, Jennifer. Who's on set? Who's learning? Who's counting on me to show up on time and know my lines? Numbers take care of themselves when the work is right. She smiled, but the smile had edges now. So you're not worried about saturation? You've made, what, over 100 films? Maybe people are ready for fresh faces. Great, he said. Let them be fresh. Let them be paid. Let them lead. Me being here doesn't keep them out. I open doors when I can. I'm not standing in any door frame. Some would argue you are. Some haven't been on a set with me. A nervous ripple moved through the bleachers. You could hear the director's whisper from the booth, a faint metallic shiver in the speakers. Stay friendly, Jen. Stay friendly. She tucked her cue card underneath another and shifted tactics. Okay, then let's talk about the image. People love Samuel L. Jackson. The anger, the intensity, the language, laughter. Do you ever worry that the persona swallowed the actor? He exhaled through his nose, amused. The persona is seasoning. The actor is the meal. He turned to the audience. Don't let anybody tell you salt is the steak. Big laugh, even the camera operators grinned. Jennifer pressed, a touch louder. But you do lean on it. The catchphrases, the shouting. Is that because subtlety isn't selling? The laugh died. Samuel's head tilted. Not offended, assessing. You asked if subtlety sells. Go watch the scenes where I don't say a word. Watch the cutaways where I'm just listening. You'll see a man working, not a meme performing. Another ripple of applause, stronger this time. Jennifer's jaw tightened. Listening is important, she said. So listen to this. A lot of people feel actors your age should use their status to elevate the next generation. Isn't clinging to the spotlight a little ungenerous, he offered? Selfish, she finished softly, almost tenderly, which made it land harder. Samuel let the silence sit. He looked past her toward the rafters, as if searching for a softer light to stand in. When he spoke, the rough velvet of his voice lowered a shade. I teach. I produce. I call young actors after table reads and tell them what they did that was honest. I donate to public school theater programs so a kid can find their voice before the world shuts it. If that's clinging, then I hope more people cling. It should have been the button, the gracious pivot back to harmony. But Jennifer didn't take it. She crossed her leg again, ankle swinging, bracelets chiming like a warning. Transparency moment, she said brightly. I rewatched 3 of your recent films this weekend, and I didn't feel them. Not like your old stuff. Maybe audiences don't either. A groan rolled from the back row. Samuel's posture changed by a degree you could miss if you weren't looking. The stillness of a man choosing patience. Not feeling a film is valid, he said. Turning that into a verdict on a person's worth is not. I didn't say worth, Jennifer replied, eyebrow lifting. I said audience appetite. You conflated them, he said gently. Happens fast under lights. The bandleader coughed into a fist. A producer slid into the aisle with the look of someone approaching a nervous dog. Calm palms. Don't startle. Jennifer's smile thinned. We keep it real here, she said to the audience. We ask the questions people are thinking. Then ask them, he said. Ask about the craft, the collaboration, the failures that taught me something. Ask why I say yes to smaller stories between the noisy ones. Ask about reading plays to kids in hospital wards because Their faces change when the commas change. He paused. You want truth? Ask for it without trying to make a bruise first. That landed. You could almost hear the room inhale. Jennifer blinked, then tried levity. Come on, Sam, you don't bruise easy. Easy isn't the point, he said. Respect is. A red light flashed, 90 seconds to break. The control room voice was louder now, clipped. Toss to commercial. Do it now. Jennifer ignored it, sensing a cliff and accelerating anyway. Look, I admire you, we all do. But there's a time, right? Athletes retire, singers shift to mentoring. Isn't there a point where you bow out gracefully? He smiled in a way that wasn't a smile. When the work asks me to, not when the noise does. She leaned forward, voice honeyed, words sharpened. Or when a host has the courage to say what others won't. Courage, he repeated softly, isn't cruelty with makeup on. Gasps. The bandleader's eyebrows climbed into his hairline. Jennifer's cheeks colored. For a heartbeat, the mask slipped. The wounded look of someone told a truth they didn't want to hear. Then the steel returned. Let me be specific, she said. Your last film opened small. Critics called it tired. If a young actor had that run, they'd be done. Why is it different for you? Samuel didn't answer immediately. He studied her card, then her face, then the audience, as if choosing where to plant his flag. Because I've proven I can climb out of any valley and still carry other people up with me, he said. Because a season isn't a career. Because longevity is a craft. And because the day I'm a headline more than I'm a human, I'll be the first to leave. Some might say that day is today, she said. It was quiet enough to hear a ring slide on a finger somewhere in row 5. Samuel sat forward, forearms on his knees, an intimacy the cameras loved. No, he said softly, today is the day I remind folks that tough questions don't require disrespect as a delivery system. The tally light blinked. Break, break, break. Jennifer forced a laugh, palms up. We'll be right back with more Real Talk with Samuel L. Jackson. The band punched a bright sting. Lights eased, applause signs begged. The audience clapped because they were told to, not because they felt like it. As stagehands swarmed for touch-ups, Jennifer sat very still, staring at her cards as if the ink might rearrange into safer questions. A producer crouched beside her. We can pivot, he whispered. Family, theater, the cookbook. She shook him off. I'm fine. Across from her, Samuel sat in water and looked at the floor, then the ceiling, then nowhere. A makeup artist dabbed his forehead. He thanked her by name. When the countdown began, 5, 4, 3, he rolled his shoulders once, like a fighter loosening the tension in the past. The lights surged alive. Jennifer's smile returned, lacquered and bright. We're back with the incomparable Samuel L. Jackson, she purred. Let's lighten it up. Beat. Or maybe not. He waited. She planted the question like a flag. If you weren't Samuel L. Jackson, the legend, the brand, do you really think you'd still be getting hired? The audience recoiled. The band leader's hand froze above the keys. Somewhere in the booth, a producer whispered, "Oh no." Samuel's eyes lifted to hers, clear, steady, immeasurably tired of the game. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't reach for a joke. He simply touched the base of his lapel microphone with 2 fingers, as if testing how firmly it was clipped. And for the first time, the audience realized this wasn't just friction. It was a fuse, and it was almost gone. The air inside the studio had changed. It was thicker now, quieter. The bright lights no longer felt warm. They felt harsh, clinical, like interrogation lamps. Jennifer smiled, but it wasn't real. It was the kind of smile a person wears when they're trying to hold power that's already slipping through their fingers. Samuel sat still, calm, composed. His hand rested on his knee, his thumb rhythmically tapping once, twice. A silent countdown. Jennifer shifted in her seat, ignoring the frantic signals from her producer through the teleprompter glass. So, she said, drawing out the word, you're saying you don't think age or performance matters in this business anymore? That you can just keep going forever? Samuel leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his gaze steady but now sharpened. I'm saying, he replied slowly, I can keep doing what I love as long as I'm capable of doing it. That's how every craft works. You stop when the work stops needing you, not when someone decides you're too old to be interesting, the audience murmured softly. Jennifer laughed, but it was hollow, the kind of laugh that masks frustration. Oh, come on, Samuel. Be honest. There's a point when the audience moves on. That's just reality. He nodded slightly. Sure, people move on, but respect doesn't have an expiration date. That line hit hard. The audience clapped instinctively, but the applause wasn't enthusiastic. It was nervous, supportive. Jennifer's eyes flickered, and she waved a hand as if to brush it off. You've been in this industry a long time, she said, her tone lighter, though the undercurrent remained sharp. Maybe it's just difficult to see your own decline? The room went silent. Even the camera operators looked up from their monitors. Jennifer realized too late what she'd just said. Her face froze for a split second before she forced another smile. Samuel's expression didn't change. No visible anger, no sharp reaction. Just a stillness that was somehow louder than shouting. Decline, he repeated. Interesting choice of word. Jennifer tried to recover. I didn't mean that personally. I just meant... You did, Samuel interrupted quietly. His tone wasn't aggressive. It was precise, surgical. You meant it exactly the way it sounded. That's why it hit the way it did. The audience stayed silent. No one dared to clap or laugh. The tension was so thick you could hear the faint hum of the studio lights overhead. Jennifer crossed her arms, defensive now. Well, I'm just doing my job. People want to hear the tough questions. Tough questions are fine, Samuel said evenly. Disrespect is not. Jennifer blinked, her confidence faltering. I wasn't disrespecting you. Samuel tilted his head slightly, almost pitying. You don't have to raise your voice to be disrespectful, Jennifer. Sometimes it's in the tone. Sometimes it's in the way you smile when you're trying to make someone small. The audience gasped softly. Jennifer's face reddened, her composure cracked. You're overreacting. You've been in Hollywood too long. You can't take a little honesty? That was it. That was the moment the mask came off. Samuel leaned back, then looked directly at her, his voice calm but powerful, the kind of calm that made people sit up straighter. I've been in Hollywood long enough to recognize when a host mistakes cruelty for honesty. A few people in the crowd started clapping. Slowly at first, then louder. The sound filled the studio like a rising wave. Jennifer tried to speak over it, but her voice was drowned out. She looked around, eyes darting toward the control room glass, searching for rescue. Cut to commercial, someone whispered over the PA, but the director hesitated. It was too late. The cameras were locked on them, the moment too raw to break. Jennifer forced a smile, desperate to regain control. We're just having a conversation here, she said quickly. That's what this show is about. Open, honest dialogue. Samuel gave a slow nod. Dialogue requires two people actually listening. You stopped listening when you started rehearsing your insults. This time the audience erupted. Loud applause, a few cheers. Jennifer's face stiffened. She pressed her cue cards flat against her thigh, her knuckles white. All right, she said tightly. Maybe we should move on. No, Samuel said. Let's not. Let's stay right here since you wanted real conversation. You wanted honesty. Here it is. The studio fell completely silent again. The crew froze. Even the teleprompter feed stopped scrolling. Samuel leaned forward, eyes locked on Jennifer. You invite people to your show, ask them to be open, to share their truth. But what you really want is a headline. You don't listen to understand. You listen to clip something for social media. Jennifer's lips parted, but no words came. Samuel continued, you talk about empowerment, about building people up, but you're tearing them down for applause. That's not empowerment. That's exploitation. The crowd started clapping again, louder this time. Some even stood. Jennifer's jaw clenched. I think you're taking this way too seriously, she said, but her voice trembled slightly. Samuel smiled faintly. No, I'm just taking myself seriously, because apparently no one else here is. The audience roared. A standing ovation was building. Spontaneous, uncontrollable. Jennifer sat back, stunned, as Samuel calmly reached up and touched his microphone clip again. The sound engineer's voice came over the comms. Panicked. He's taking it off. Hey, don't cut the feed. Don't cut. Jennifer tried to speak over the noise. Samuel, wait, we still have. But he was already standing. The crowd quieted again, watching in disbelief as he adjusted his blazer and buttoned the top button. Jennifer, he said quietly, I came here out of respect. I thought this would be a conversation, not an ambush. Jennifer looked up at him, her eyes wide but defiant. It's not an ambush. You're being dramatic. Samuel gave a small, tired smile. You call it dramatic, I call it dignity. And with that, he removed the microphone completely and placed it gently on the arm of his chair. The studio was silent. Jennifer stared at him, the legend standing in front of her, calm, unshaken, and done. As he turned toward the exit, one of the stagehands instinctively moved to block the path, but the producer quickly waved him aside. The man had made up his mind. He was leaving. And for the first time in the Jennifer Hudson show's history, the audience didn't know whether to clap or cry. Because everyone knew this wasn't just television anymore. This was a reckoning. The silence after Samuel stood up was unlike anything daytime television had ever experienced. No band cue, no commercial fade out, no teleprompter rescue, just the hum of the cameras and the low shuffle of hundreds of stunned audience members trying to process what they were seeing. Jennifer blinked rapidly, her mouth half open. Samuel, sit down, she said, her voice brittle but loud enough to echo through the studio. We're not finished yet. Samuel stopped, turned halfway toward her, and the look on his face said everything words didn't need to. Calm, unshaken, deeply disappointed. I am, he said simply. The words landed like a gavel. Jennifer's expression flickered, a mixture of disbelief and defiance. You can't just walk off my show, she said sharply. We're having a real conversation here. You talk about respect, but walking out isn't respect, Samuel. It's arrogance. He took a slow breath, stepping back toward her just enough for the cameras to catch his face clearly. His voice was quiet, measured, but filled with the weight of someone who'd spent a lifetime mastering control. No, Jennifer, he said. Arrogance is thinking you can insult someone under the lights and call it journalism. The audience gasped, loud and unfiltered. Jennifer's cheeks flushed crimson, but she forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Oh, come on, don't be so sensitive. You've played villains, killers, all kinds of tough guys. I thought you could handle a few tough questions. Samuel gave a low, humorless chuckle. I've handled tough questions from better interviewers than you. What I don't handle, he said, taking a slow step toward her desk, is disrespect disguised as entertainment. The studio was dead quiet now. You could hear a pin drop. The audience's eyes darted between them like a tennis match where one player had stopped playing and the other didn't know how to quit. Jennifer crossed her arms, her tone shifting from performative to defensive. This is my show, she snapped, and my job is to ask the questions that make people uncomfortable. Samuel nodded slowly. Mission accomplished. That line hit the crowd like a punchline. The room erupted into cheers and applause. Some audience members stood up. A few whistled. It was no longer the Jennifer Hudson show. It was Samuel L. Jackson's stage now. Jennifer looked stunned. Her eyes darted toward the crew, silently pleading for someone to cut the feed. But the director didn't move. No one did. Samuel gestured toward the crowd. Look around you, Jennifer. These people didn't come here to see me get humiliated. They came here to see two professionals talk with mutual respect. You turned it into a power trip. Jennifer's lips tightened. That's not fair. It's honest, Samuel cut in. And maybe that's the problem. You think you're holding people accountable when really you're just holding them hostage. The audience gasped again, followed by another wave of applause, louder, longer this time. Even some of the camera operators nodded subtly behind the lenses. Jennifer stood now too, unable to stay seated while her own guest controlled the room. You think you can just lecture me on my own show? She said, her voice trembling. Samuel raised an eyebrow, calm and cold. I'm not lecturing you. I'm showing you what accountability actually looks like. That was it. The final line. The knockout. Jennifer looked down at her cue cards, hands shaking slightly, and then up at the audience. But no one was on her side. Not a single person clapped. Not one voice rose to defend her. Samuel took a step back, unclipped the last wire of his microphone, and placed it on the edge of her desk. "I've done this long enough to know when a conversation's over," he said quietly. "And this one's done." "Samuel, wait," Jennifer said, her voice cracking slightly. "You're overreacting." He paused at the edge of the stage, then turned one last time, his silhouette framed perfectly against the stage lights. "No, Jennifer, I'm reacting exactly the way a man should when respect leaves the room." The crowd stood, not just clapping now, but cheering. The sound filled the studio, echoing through every camera mic and every hallway backstage. Samuel nodded once to the audience, a silent thank you, then walked off the set without another word. The cameras followed him for as long as they could, capturing that dignified walk past the curtains, down the hallway, and out of sight. Jennifer stood frozen, her smile trembling under the lights. The applause didn't stop. It kept going, relentless, overwhelming, consuming. She tried to speak. "All right, we'll be right back," she muttered, forcing a laugh that died instantly. The teleprompter didn't move. The producers didn't cue music. No one knew what to do. The screen cut to black. If this story moved you, hit that like button. It really helps more people find these powerful, true-to-life stories. And if you want to see more moments like this, stories of dignity, respect, and people standing up for themselves when it matters most, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Because here we don't just tell stories, we remember what they teach us.